Picture this: a live congressional hearing exploding into chaos before 42 million Americans. In just 27 seconds, everything changed. Donald Trump looks directly at Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and declares, "The homeless must leave the Capitol or be removed." Her eyes don't flinch. What she says next will ignite the room like a firestorm and become the most talked about political moment of the year. What you're about to hear is the story of when American politics stopped being polite and started being personal. And trust me, you won't believe how this ends. The hearing room felt less like Congress and more like a stage for a national showdown. Marble columns stood rigid, cameras ready to turn whispers into weapons. A red digital clock ticked down each second like a silent countdown to something explosive. In the seats, you had veterans in faded caps, union workers in worn jackets, and advocates clutching folders like shields. In the second row sat Tom, a gaunt man in a weathered military jacket, gripping a folded paper until the edges curled. 2 seats away, a mother clutched her backpack to her chest like it held her last piece of safety. At the witness table, Donald Trump sat dead center, hands clasped over his nameplate. His note cards lay untouched, a glass of water sweating on the polished wood. His eyes swept the press benches, daring the cameras to make him the story before a word was spoken. Then the double doors opened. Jasmine Crockett stepped in, and the room's atmosphere shifted like a collective breath being held. Her navy suit cut through the glare, her stride measured but unyielding. In her hand was a black folder marked with a small white label, Exhibit 7. Every step she took seemed to tighten the air. She took her seat across from Trump, meeting his gaze for the briefest moment before setting the folder down with deliberate care. On the far wall, Linda Park, Jasmine's aide, stood with a tablet in hand. Their eyes met, and Jasmine gave the smallest nod, as if to say the plan was in motion. The quiet that followed wasn't accidental. It was chosen by everyone in the room. The chair's gavel struck once, a sharp crack that ricocheted off marble and wood. It wasn't just a call to order. It was a starting pistol. But here's where it gets crazy. Trump leaned forward, the movement slow and deliberate, like a man about to drop a match into gasoline. The microphone caught the faint scrape of his chair. He didn't clear his throat, didn't look at his notes. His voice came out steady, almost casual, but it carried the weight of a gavel. The homeless must leave the Capitol or face removal. And yes, I will use federal forces to crack down on crime. The words didn't just land, they detonated. You could feel the shock ripple across the room like an invisible earthquake. The great seal above seemed to loom heavier, the marble walls colder. In the back row, a veteran straightened in his seat, his hand closing over the brim of his cap, so hard his knuckles blanched. That cap was old, stained, frayed at the edges. It had seen sandstorms in Iraq, rain in Afghanistan. Now it was seeing this. Trump didn't blink. His gaze swept the panel, not as a man asking for approval, but as one declaring a sentence. And Jasmine? She sat perfectly still. Her chin lifted a fraction, her eyes locked on him. Her fingers tapped the folder once, twice. To most, it looked like a nervous tick. To Linda Park, standing against the wall, it was a signal. Can you imagine the tension in that room? Trump leaned closer into the mic. We will offer them a place far from here. But the days of chaos in our streets are over. His tone was iron, the cold steel of someone closing a door. The veteran's jaw worked as if chewing on words he'd never say aloud. He wasn't chaos. He wasn't a problem to be solved. But in that moment, with millions watching, he was being erased. Jasmine inhaled slowly, deliberately. Her attention was fixed on the man across the table, as if weighing the perfect angle for her strike. The tension between them was a wire stretched tight, humming with the weight of what had just been said. The silence thickened. Even the chair hesitated to move forward. Sensing the shift, the line had been crossed, and everyone knew it. But wait until you hear what she does next. Jasmine pushed her chair back, the sound sharp against the marble floor. She rose to her full height, eyes never leaving Trump. Her voice was calm, but it cut through the air like glass. You're not talking about statistics. You're talking about people. Every head in the room seemed to turn toward her at once. The veterans straightened. Reporters leaned forward. Even the cameras seemed to lean in. Trump didn't move. He just watched, lips pressed into a flat line, waiting for her to lose her footing. But she didn't. She planted both hands on the table, her folder still closed like a locked safe. The man in the back row served in Iraq. The woman over there works 2 jobs and still sleeps in her car. These are the people your words erase. She didn't need to point. They knew exactly who she meant. Trump's hand tapped once on the table, barely audible but picked up by the microphones. He leaned back slightly, trying to signal he wasn't rattled, but his eyes narrowed just a fraction. And this is where Jasmine made her move. Her fingers tapped twice on the folder. Linda Park moved to the edge of the wall, thumb brushing her tablet. A second later, the giant LED screen behind Jasmine flickered to life. The first image was rough, grainy, the frame shaking slightly. A man in a worn military jacket sat on the curb, hands buried in his pockets against the cold. His name appeared in simple white text, Tom Richards, U.S. Army veteran. When he finally spoke in the video, his voice wavered not from weakness, but from the weight of years. I fought for this country. I thought that meant it would fight for me. Now they tell me to move along like I'm trash. The gallery went still. You could hear someone shifting in their seat, the faint click of a camera, and nothing else. The video cut to Tom's hands, scarred and calloused. He pulled a folded photo from his jacket. Holding it up, the image was faded. A young man in uniform smiling in desert sun. That was me. Tom's voice cracked. Before my leg got torn up in Kandahar. Before the night, I woke up under a bridge in the rain. In the front row, a senator shifted in his seat, jaw clenched tight. 2 reporters glanced at each other, one mouthing, "This is bad." A camera zoomed in on Trump's face, catching the flicker of his eyelids, the twitch in his jaw. The clip rolled on. Tom pointed at a folded blanket beside him, the only barrier between him and the pavement. "You can send me to fight halfway across the world, but you can't let me sleep 2 blocks from the Capitol." There was no applause, no reaction from the crowd, just the silence of a room forced to look at something it wanted to ignore. The screen faded to black. Jasmine finally looked at Trump, her gaze steady. "This," she said, tapping the folder once, "is who you're talking about. And you won't believe what Trump says next." Trump leaned toward the mic, his voice edged with disdain. "This is theater, a dramatic stunt for cameras, nothing more." Jasmine didn't so much as blink. She turned toward him in a slow, precise motion. "If compassion is a show," she said, voice calm but cutting, "then America needs a bigger stage." The room reacted like a lit fuse. A wave of murmurs rippled through the audience. Someone in the back clapped once before dying in the chair's glare. Trump's jaw tightened. "We have laws. We can't run a country based on feelings." Jasmine's elbows rested on the table now, mirroring his posture. Feelings didn't put Tom Richards on that curb. Policies did. Decisions did. Yours did. The camera cut to Tom in the gallery. He sat straighter, eyes locked on the 2 figures at the table. The mother with the backpack clutched it tighter. You could feel the audience leaning forward, drawn into the gravity between them. But then Senator Roy Hamilton tried to derail her momentum. Hamilton leaned toward his mic, voice loud enough to cut through the tension. "Madam Crockett, perhaps you should look at the numbers before making emotional arguments. Violent crime in the Capitol is up 17% in the last year." He held up a glossy chart, the colors bold and alarming. Jasmine didn't rush. She reached for her folder, flipping it open with unhurried precision. She scanned Hamilton's chart for a moment, then slid a single sheet from her own file. "This," she said, holding it where cameras could see, "is the same report you're holding. Page 6, where it notes that the so-called spike includes misdemeanors reclassified as felonies under the new statute your office pushed through last spring." Hamilton's jaw tightened. "Sleeping in public, panhandling near a bus stop. Those are your violent crimes now." Her tone stayed even, but each word landed like a strike. The chart in Hamilton's hand suddenly looked smaller, less like evidence and more like a prop. When you inflate numbers by redefining poverty as criminal behavior, it's not public safety you're after, it's public fear. Hamilton tried again, but the edge was gone from his voice. The point remains, crime is rising. Jasmine leaned in. No, Senator, the truth remains. Your numbers don't match reality, and you're selling fear to justify a plan that removes people instead of helping them. But what happens next will blow your mind. Jasmine let the silence hang, then shifted her gaze toward the public gallery. Her eyes found a woman seated halfway back, clutching a worn tote bag and a folded blanket. Madam Chair, Jasmine said, I'd like to invite Angela Brooks to share her story. The woman hesitated only a moment before walking forward. She wore a faded sweatshirt and jeans, her hair pulled back simply. She didn't look prepared to speak to millions, but when she gripped the microphone, you could tell she'd been carrying this moment for a long time. My son is 8, Angela began, voice soft but unshaken. We sleep where we can. Last month, it was a park bench near the playground. He was curled up under my coat when the officers came. She paused, swallowing. The microphones caught the sound, the breath, the quiet tremor. They told me we had to move, that sleeping there was against the law. I asked them where we should go. They said, not here. The room stayed still. No shuffling papers, no whispering. Even the hum of the lights seemed to fade. We walked all night, Angela said, her voice catching. By morning, my boy was shivering so bad, I thought. She stopped herself. We found a shelter, but it was full. We waited outside until they let us in for one night. Just one. Trump's fingers tapped the table once, twice. The mics caught the sound. I work, Angela said, her tone sharper now. 2 jobs, but rent's more than I make in a month. You think I want my kid growing up like this? You think this is a choice? The question seemed to land everywhere at once. In the back, the veteran shifted forward. In the press row, one reporter lowered her pen, just watching. We're not numbers. We're not a problem to move out of sight. We're people, and we need help, not handcuffs. She stepped back on the mic and walked toward her seat. And that's when everything exploded. It started with one voice. A young man in the gallery cupped his hand around his mouth and shouted, "Let them stay." Within seconds, the chant spread, bouncing off marble walls, gathering force. Let them stay. Let them stay. The rhythm took over, pulling people to their feet. Veterans, mothers, students. They stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes locked on Jasmine. The sound wasn't just noise. It was a demand, raw and unpolished. Security moved in fast. Dark suits slipped between rows, hands resting near weapons, not drawing, just reminding. Jasmine didn't flinch. She stayed at the microphone, letting the chant wash over her. If you think removing them will silence this message, she said, voice steady but sharp, you've already lost. The chant grew louder. The wall seemed to hum with it. Trump leaned toward the chair, lips moving in a quick whisper. Security hesitated. No one moved to grab her. This isn't a mob, Jasmine said into the mic, cutting to the chant just enough to be heard. This is America refusing to look away. For a breathless few seconds, it felt like the room might tip into something no one could pull back from. And then came the moment that changed everything. Trump and Jasmine were face to face now, so close the stage lights cast their shadows into one shape. Every seat leaned forward. Even the guard seemed caught in the moment. Trump's eyes narrowed. You really think you're going to win this? Jasmine didn't answer right away. She'd learned the power of holding silence. Finally, she tilted her head. Winning isn't the point. Telling the truth is. Trump stepped closer until there was barely a hand's width between them. It was pure dominance theater. But Jasmine didn't retreat. Her heels stayed planted. Careful, Trump murmured, almost off mic. You're playing in a league you can't win. Jasmine's smile was small but sharp. Funny, people said the same thing to every woman who ever stood where I'm standing now. And then it happened, barely noticeable but undeniable. Trump blinked. A quick, involuntary flicker. In a duel this tight, it was the first breach in the wall. I'm not here to beat you your game, Jasmine said, steady as a gavel. I'm here to end it. But her final blow was still coming. Jasmine's words dropped like a blade. If you can erase veterans because they're poor, who will you erase next? The room didn't just hear it, they felt it. Then, as if on cue, chairs scraped back and people rose. Applause erupted like a wave. Trump didn't move, jaw tightened, eyes fixed on her as cameras caught every flicker of his expression. "Answer it!" Someone shouted from the back. The chant formed, "Answer her! Answer her!" Jasmine's expression didn't soften. Because if it's veterans today, it's families tomorrow, then communities, entire histories wiped clean, all because they're inconvenient to your story. Trump finally spoke, but the words were slower, heavier. "We have to protect our cities." It wasn't an answer. It was a deflection. Everyone knew it. Jasmine leaned toward her mic. Protecting a city means protecting its people. All of them. And that's when Trump did something nobody expected. He didn't just leave. He cut through the room like a storm breaking. His chair scraped back with a sound that made people flinch. No farewell, no parting words. Just that hard turn toward the exit. Cameras swarmed instantly. His security team surged forward, but no wall could block the shot. Every lens caught his jaw locked tight, his hand in a fist. The chant behind him, "Let them stay," rang louder with each step he took. Jasmine stayed perfectly still. She didn't follow him with her eyes. She followed him with her presence. When the doors swung shut, she lifted her gaze to the main camera. This fight isn't over. No rise in tone, no flourish. Just certainty. By morning, the footage was everywhere. Not the official network cut, but raw clips from phone cameras. Cable news lit up like a storm front. Online, the battle moved faster. "Stand with Jasmine" exploded across social media. Photos of her standing inches from Trump's face flooded timelines. But here's what really mattered. Later, away from cameras, Jasmine visited the shelter where Tom and Angela stayed. No microphones, no headlines. Just a hand on Tom's shoulder, a hug from Angela, and a quiet "I'll be back." Because victory wasn't in the noise. It was in the warm bed where a little boy now slept and the key in a veteran's pocket that no one could take away. In the end, strength isn't measured by the loudest voice or the biggest platform. It's shown by who you stand up for, not who you push out. And sometimes, in just 27 seconds, one person's courage to speak truth can remind an entire nation what we're supposed to stand for. The question isn't whether Jasmine won or lost that day. The question is, when your moment comes to stand on the side of justice, will you stay silent or step forward?